Hi guys, my name is Nadeesh. I am also an actor, a writer and a poet. Apart from that, I also create content when I have the time. And I'm actually very excited to welcome you all for the 4th episode of In Conversation With. And what we do here is essentially we talk to experts and from the theatre field, and we try to put some method behind the madness, understand the method behind the madness that you see on stage, right? And speaking of method, I have today with me the creator of the Goldberg Method of acting, Mr. Jeff Goldberg.
I'm from New York originally. I was born and raised in New York. I did my university education in film and television from Boston University. Following that, I moved to Paris, France, where I did my master's degree in cinema, film direction. And then following that, I worked for many years at the International Film School of Paris, where I was the director of the program, but also a screenwriting professor. I've taught screenwriting, acting, directing for the last 20 years, and as a professional myself, I work as a writer, director, actor, producer of theater and film. I've done that now for the last 8 years here in Bombay at the Jeff Goldberg Studio, which is a method acting studio. We're a 9-month conservatory, and that's who I am in a nutshell.
I had the pleasure of attending a workshop of his. It was one of the most inspiring moments of my life. In fact, I think I ended up in tears. It was touching for me, and I think that speaks more than any claim can speak for a person, because how an individual touches another individual emotionally. Right, so first things first, Jeff, we're all very curious about the Goldberg method, right? Because method acting today has been sensationalized in a manner, right? You're seeing, of course, if I talk commercially, you've got instances of, actors like Jared Leto, who's talking about method, but the kind of things you hear about them, I'm sure people are familiar. It's not really, exciting to hear for an actor. Right. So can you give us an insight into what method acting is?
Sure.
And show us the Goldberg method.
Okay. Well, method acting generally is it's a larger definition, the one that you might see in a textbook somewhere, or in Sanford and Meisner's book, if you're familiar with who Sanford and Meisner was, is it's about living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. That's what it's about. The idea that you can employ your inner life, your emotional self, in a truthful way between the action and cut of the scene. And that's what method acting is, sort of as a big ticket item, okay? But what I would say is that the way I view method acting, and actually I think the most important word for method acting, at least in our technique, is process. It's a process, and artists reject process. We hear process and we think of, math or science or something that doesn't feel like us. But actually the discipline of process is really important to the actor, maybe even more important to an actor than a scientist or a mathematician. How do I achieve that? And you're right, method acting has a very mysterious, enigmatic sort of notion in the world. I remember, actually, I'll share a story with you. I never knew I'd be an actor. That was something that became much later in my life. I actually always wanted to be a director, a writer-director. And when I was at Boston University, I was at the film school. And along Commonwealth Avenue was the acting school. So I used to have to walk past the acting school. And I would walk past the acting school, and the actors were always outside in front of the school, either crying or hugging, and sometimes both. And I never figured what is going on inside of this place. And, from the outside, method acting or acting at large, it looks like this thing that we all recognize, we all know what it looks like, we all witness and watch it, but how do you do it? And one of the first things that we try to do with our technique is demystify that right away. Like, guys, there's no secret here. You possess everything you already need to be an actor. And I tell that to people the very first day I meet them. You possess everything you need to be an actor. Because acting is a language of emotions. And it's a language of emotions that reflect the positive and the negative, the strength and the weakness, the vulnerability and the sensitivity of a human being. Everybody's got that, okay? The question then becomes, how do we create a skill set and tools that enable you to achieve that? And that's really and truly what I think people misunderstand about method acting, is that it's not some cloudy thing over there behind an island next to to an enigma. There's a treasure map that no one knows where the X marks the spot, and it feels like that. And then you have people like Jared Leto or the late Marlon Brando talk about acting, and you hear them talk about it in a way, and you're like, I'll never get there. There's no way, And fair enough, but you also forget that you're sitting there at home and you haven't even started yet. Those people are 20, 30 years into an exploration of self. You can't be expected to be that good. And the most important thing about the discipline of acting in a general term, and I don't care what school of acting you're looking at, method, classical, folk, movement-based acting, it's all about the work. We live very eclectic lives today because we have YouTube, because we have the internet. So one of the things that we've tried to do with our technique is make it as eclectic as possible. But when you start bringing things into different schools of thought, you have to ask yourself, what makes it in? And for us, the most important thing is this: does it work? Can you, the actor, use it? And I say this all the time. I don't care if the idea was Sanford Meisner's or Samir the Samosawala. I mean that. If Samir the Samosawala has a good idea on how to help an actor emote, let's go, Samir. Bring the samosas, because everybody loves those things. Okay? I don't care where it comes from. I'm not in the business of propagating the purity of someone's idea. I'm in the business of giving actors the opportunity to execute their craft successfully.
No, but I think Stanislavski quite popularly said, and I think maybe this is something people kind of overlook, where he said that I'm teaching you a method, but it is not your method. It doesn't have to be what you do and what I don't preach it to everybody. You have to find your style. You have to find your method.
That's right.
It's about... In fact, now the thing is, as actors, it's a lot of theory. There's a lot of material that you're consuming, and I would really want to dig deep into some of the pieces that you've shared right now. But before that, we've got a scene here from A Streetcar Named Desire, Tennessee Williams. We actually want to see, as an actor, how do you break down a scene or a dialogue, before you take it to stage?
Sure, not a problem.
Right, so it's right here on page 107.
107, sure.
Yes, the last dialogue with Stanley.
That's how I'll clear the table. Don't ever talk that way to me. Pig, Pollock, disgusting, vulgar, greasy. Them kind of words would have been on your tongue, and your sister's too much around here. What do you two think you are, a pair of queens? Remember what Huey Long said, every man is a king, and I am the king, and around here, don't you forget it. He throws a cup. My place is clear. Do you want me to clear your place? So, just to set the stage a little bit further, Stella has made dinner for her husband Stanley. Blanche, her sister, has come to live with them. And Blanche is getting closer and closer to losing her mind. And Stella and Blanche come from old money, which is now gone. And Stanley is a lower class guy who comes from no money, and it's his house. So these two women who are in need of a house still carry the airs of, we're rich, and he's had enough of that. And that's the moment. So how do you approach something like this? Well, that's a great question, actually. And I'm really glad you ask it, because, and I'll just circle back to one tiny thing. I remember when I first got into the business of training actors, I never thought I would do that. Honestly, it's a complete accident. It happened completely by accident. And I'll tell you how it happened. I was asked to direct a play, and I was working with actors, and at one point, while doing a reading with one actor, I said to him, let's do a cold read, okay? A cold read is you just read it. No acting. Just read it. I said action. What do you mean? I'm like, okay. So got through the piece, and okay. What do you think? I was like, great. Let's do it again. Cold read. Pressing the point. Action. What do you? I was like, in my head, it was just like, and then it dawned on me. This actor who had done a ton of work, whose resume was as long as my arm, didn't know what a cold read was. And that's when I thought, wait a second. He doesn't know what that tool is to cold read a piece, right? And as I started getting into the world of training actors, even at very well-reputed institutes all over the world who do amazing work, I realized that they didn't give actors a really important tool. And as a writer, remember the half-raised arm? As a writer, my arm goes all the way up for writer. One of the things that always used to drive me crazy when I would work with actors is they didn't understand writing. Now, they weren't illiterate in the sense that they couldn't read, but they were illiterate in terms of they didn't know how to read. Okay? And that is something that I rail against, because I want you to imagine a writer in his or her head has a 5-dimensional moment that is the scene. It smells like something, it looks like something, it sounds like something, it tastes like something. Now, I can't Wi-Fi it to your brain. I wish I could. I'm looking forward to that technology, but it's not here yet. So I have to create something that can give it to you. And that is this 2-dimensional document called a piece of paper. But I want you, all of you, to now think of this as like a genie lamp. You know genie lamp? Right? You rub it, and out pops the genie. Please don't rub your pages, it'd be very weird. I can see people in auditions now. Come on!
I'm getting it!
All right, but I want you to rub this thing and pop out that 5-dimensional moment. But to do that, you have to have tools, skills. The first thing you don't want to do when you approach a scene is assume you know anything about it. Okay? Assume nothing. Now, we all know if you assume things, you are starting to think about them in the context of, I know the answer. Don't do that to the scene. Let the scene tell you what's in it. And the other reason you want to avoid those assumptions is because it creates presets, emotional presets. Okay? And let me explain the emotional preset before we come back to this. You know, after your first day of school, and you got to go get like the list of materials for class, and when you're a little kid, crayons is on the list, and you want to get to the store first because all the cool packs are going to be gone. At least this was my life, okay? And in America, we had the Crayola 4-pack, 8-pack, 16-pack, 32, and 64. Now, obviously, you wanted 64, okay? But because your brother or your mom or someone was running late, you get there and there'll be 8, right? You know, the 8 colors of the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. I want you to think of emotional presets like that. Red is red, blue is blue, green is green. But there's also aqua and fuchsia, right? And there are shades. And the thing is that emotional presets look a lot more like the 4 or the 8-pack. And where do the emotional presets come from? They come from the language of acting and cinema that you've witnessed and watched. One of the things that we have to do is when we approach the scene, that cold read is, you tell me, not I'll tell you. That's the first thing when you approach a scene, is listen to it. The second thing you have to do is just read it flat. So, you know, here's the deal. This line here, I'll clear the table, has an exclamation point next to it, right? Okay. 99% of actors will read that line like, I'll clear the table. Hang on a second. It's an exclamation point. It doesn't say shout. It just says forceful, exclamation, right? So, I'll clear the table is just as effective as I'll clear the table, right? But you don't know yet which one works, right? Because there's also this other thing, right? You can speak in passive-aggressive, I'll clear the table, or you can speak in aggressive-aggressive, I'll clear the table, or you can speak in total full-on, I'll clear the table. But you don't know which one works yet. So don't preset it. Read it cold. The circumstance is what's going on. What's going on? Right? So Stanley is at dinner, he's annoyed, and he's had enough. That's what's going on. Situation. The situation, be like a journalist. Get out your little notepad, who, what, where, when, why, and how. And yes, all of them need an answer. Now what's the first resource for your who, what, where, when, why, and how? The script. The script. This is the thing that is most important. So get all all of that information from the script. And then relationship, right? Are you my girlfriend? Are you my best friend? Are you my brother? But those are just labels. Are we close? When was the last time we saw each other? Do we like each other? Do we not like each other? Okay? So there's all these incredibly tiny nuanced bits and bobs, and we can spend a lot of time on this, that you have to unpack. The most important thing is this. Ask the scene what it wants to tell you. And do not ever think you've read it enough. Read it again and again and again and again and again. And always, when you're reading, have two things with you: a dictionary and a notepad. If you're using your phone, voila, you got both. Why? Because you need to know what the words mean. You need to know what the phrases mean. And anything that strikes you, write it down, write it down, write it down. Make notes, constant amount of notes.
Okay, but see, with a play like A Streetcar Named Desire or even a Julius Caesar, you have so much material to look at, right? You've got so many plays that came before that, you've got films, you've got so many actors who have referenced it for you, right? For a character which has been written for the very first time, a completely fictional character which has not existed in the past, how do you as an actor then decode that character with using these same tools? Are they still applicable to that character as well?
For sure. Sadly, that question's a little bit flawed because everything's existed before. There's nothing new under the sun. So what you have to do is, if you're dealing with brand new original material, is understand that whilst the material is new, the mistakes, the conflicts, the universe that these people live in is one that looks just like mine. Is there anything that I, Jeff, or you, or you, or you can bring to this? Because acting is collaboration. And you have to start collaborating at every level, right with the page. Okay? So what I'm asking myself is, Stanley, yeah, I've seen Marlon Brando's version. Never saw Anthony Quinn's, which is too bad. I would have liked to see Anthony Quinn's. I like Anthony Quinn. But you know what? I don't think Stanley, the way Brando played him, is the way I want to play him. You know? Brando played him as this macho, mean, kind of swaggering guy. But I don't believe for a second that Stanley wasn't vulnerable himself. As a matter of fact, so much of this bravado is vulnerability. He's just projecting his vulnerability through the bravado. So let me show that. Because I'm really vulnerable. You know, I'm not this big, swinging, muscly guy. I mean, I wish I was Marlon Brando. We all wish we were Marlon Brando. But I want to bring something to it. And I think that is the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what is in this?
One thing that I wanted to kind of get a little deeper into is when you said that as an actor, every day you wake up and you wake up and you say that, you know, what am I going to be doing today? Now, a lot of actors don't, like you rightly said, you know, you look at somebody who's a Marlon Brando who's, you know, spent 15, 20, 30 years of his life perfecting his craft. And then you say, I want to be that person, but I can never be that person, right? Because you haven't started. Where does an actor start on, say, what do I do as an actor? What do we do as actors every day, every week? What is something, because like there's some method to it, right?
Okay, yeah.
What is that one takeaway that an actor can say, okay, I'll do this one thing every day, I'll do this one thing every week, I'll do this one thing every month,
okay,
which will help me hone my craft, because people don't know where to start.
I'll tell you right now, blue whale it. Open up your mouth, your cultural, emotional mouth, and take everything in. Okay, so here's your standing homework. Watch movies like crazy. Listen to music all the time. Read. I cannot stress that one enough. Actors are readers. I spent a lot of time talking about that, but I will not. I'll just simply say that you ever want to get to know a character, spend 300 pages with them, not 2 hours. You want to practice your craft? Wake up, read a monologue, learn the monologue, film the monologue every day. A monologue a day. Make that your workout. You want to learn about choices for actors? Wake up, find a screenplay, read the screenplay, watch the movie. It's a great exercise. And train, folks. Train as an actor. Now, not everybody has the means to go off to the Lee Strasberg Institute in New York. Not everybody has the means to come to the Jeff Goldberg studio. I know that. I'm not stupid. They're not free. And I'm not going to lie that we have to pay our bills too. But folks, train. Find a way to make it work. If you start to line up the ducks, the row will fill. And here's what you do. You find someone who really connects with you, a teacher, an instructor, a theater group that really connects with you, grab them and hold on tight. Be like, listen, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm here. I'm staying, man. Okay?
Jeff, I do have, I'm loving this conversation. I would love to explore, dive deeper into it. But I think what I'll do for now, in the interest of time, is open up the floor to the questions the people are here to attend.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
So you talked about I have a couple of questions actually.
Fire away.
About process and grabbing things from wherever you find. And you talked about the coding as well. So I wanted to ask that when you're exposed to so many things, when you're approaching a scene, when you're reading a script, how do you make sure that when you actually perform, it doesn't become rigid and it doesn't become mechanical? Because like you said in the beginning, when we talk about process, we think of math or science, and that's like an inbuilt thing. So how do you not make that process, when you actually perform, how do you make sure it's not mechanical?
It's a great question, and I'll answer it this way. Remember I said people hate cliches? They hate even to mention the word cliches? Well, actors, the word they hate even more is mechanical. Technical, right? Okay, fair enough. So my question to you is this. You're going to rehearse it, right? So start mechanical. Start there and work away from it. But if you try to run from it, you might arrive at it. Does that make sense? Okay? So some actors need the technical and the mechanical to arrive at the emotional. Not everybody works the same way. So don't fear anything. If it becomes mechanical, take a walk away. All right? If it becomes too technical, if you've lost the thread of it, take a walk away. All right? But don't work against something. Don't work away from something. That is your best friend. I don't understand why people don't rehearse. Rehearsal is everything to the actor, okay? Because it's where the active muscle memory, emotional memory, physical sense memory sets itself. It's where you create things.
You might have often especially heard this term a lot, right? They say about specific actors, they say, okay, so and so is the director's actor. So my question here is, what does it mean when you say so and so is the director's actor? And because, like you said, it is collaborative art, and the director, the writer, is captain of the ship. How important do you think it is to build this bonding and this kind of equation with your story?
Great. Brilliant questions. But a director's actor is somebody who is willing to try things. And that actually is something that you can improve. And I'll tell you how. Actors who are willing to try things are actors who are confident enough in their craft that they don't mind flipping it over, right? So, I'll clear the table. The director says, no, try it completely different. Okay. I'll clear the table, right? And what the director is doing is giving you handles, trying something new, right? And remember something with your directors. They're there for the same reason you're there, to successfully execute this project. Nobody is against you. And an actor's director is someone who listens and tries, even if you disagree. Try, because you never know. You never know. There might be something there that you discover. Okay? So that's my answer to that question. The second question is the collaborative experience, the captain of the ship. That's a really dangerous notion, and I'll tell you why. Because it implies the idea of a hierarchy. If you don't feel a mutual respect and a mutual sharing, okay, you have to build that bond with the director. So you have to work really smart, which is listen to the director, get all of their feedback, and then ask all of your questions. And listen to their answers and create the dialogue that way.
There's also a notion of with method acting is sometimes people overdo it. Yeah, so and they even get praised for it. So how do we check? Like you said, actors goes deeper and digs deeper and everything. How do we check that? Now we are overdoing it. So sometimes it affects psychologically and it, physically also sometimes. So how do we check ourselves? No, we are overdoing it now.
Okay, that's probably the most common question one gets about the method, which is, what is your off-ramp, so to speak? Okay, indulgence is dangerous in anything. You don't want to overdo anything. You don't want to overdo anything. So with that said, you need to make sure that you're not doing it because you can, but because it has purpose, because it adds value to the project, because it adds value to the character, okay? That's the first thing. But the off-ramp question, all right? I'm playing a psycho killer. I've actually played a psycho killer. How do I come out of that? Well, you have to, as you go into the space of the character, breadcrumb trail your way out. Meaning leave some breadcrumbs to remind you the way out. Okay, follow them out. You have to find something that makes you feel 100% like yourself. So if it's your favorite ice cream flavor, if it's your favorite spot to sit and watch the sunset, if it's your mom, your dad, your dog, your kitten, your whatever, then you need to treat that like your secret garden. In my case, I'm really lucky. I have a son, he's 10 years old. And my son doesn't care about anything I do. He just wants me to be dad. That's it. I mean, he Julius Caesar's cool, he knows the disgusting amount about Julius Caesar and the ancient Roman world. But when it's me and him between the action and cut of dad time, he just needs me to be his dad. He doesn't need me to be an actor or a writer or a director. He doesn't care about any of that. And that's my off-ramp. So as you build into the method, yes, you're gonna touch all those weird, crazy, manic, insane nerves that are your inner life. Remember, you're human. There's no doubt that everything that's wrong with everyone else is wrong with you too. You're not special. It's that way around. But bring a parachute. Know what's you. And that's very much an individual thing. What do you love? Where's the place, the person, the thing that makes you feel the most yourself? And just put that there.
Great. I think we'll wrap up the Q&A now, and I would really like to thank Jeff and thank all of you for coming out tonight on a Friday afternoon for this session.
Thank you.
And it's absolute pleasure speaking with Jeff every time I'm around him.
Thanks, man.